Hey everyone, welcome to this special edition of the Wealth Management Tape podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, and I wanted to really tell you how much I enjoyed doing this webinar and how happy we are to be able to bring it to you in podcast form. So I'm sure some of you may have seen it online live, which is great. Some of you maybe couldn't make it, and some of you maybe are just hearing about it for the first time. So this is here for those of you who like to listen to audio. Maybe you're running, maybe you're driving. Hopefully you're going somewhere good. And we wanted to put this in the podcast form to spread it more, to give people more access to it. We thought it was a great idea. And I've been talking to a lot of the leaders in the enterprise wealth tech space. And it came to us when I was talking to some of them about, hey, can we bring everyone together and maybe have a discussion like we used to have at conferences, which we're not having for quite a while, and talk about the future of enterprise wealth tech firms like broker-dealers, banks, large RIAs, RIA consolidators, asset managers, firms that my company, Ezra Group, works with a lot. And they have different needs than smaller firms would. And I think there's going to be different changes in the industry due to the pandemic than smaller firms are going to have. So talking to the top leaders of the wealth tech space in the enterprise area, I thought would be a good idea. And it turned out great. We got a huge response, over 500 registers, I think 550 registers, which was fantastic. And a lot of good Q&A sessions during the conference, during the webinar as well. So here it is in podcast form. Please listen. It's about an hour long, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. We didn't cut anything out because it was all great content. At the end, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Share this wherever you can on your social media, and enjoy our webinar, The Future of Enterprise Wealth Tech. Welcome to this webinar. This is the future of enterprise wealth tech, and my name is Craig Iskowitz. I'm the CEO of Ezra Group, consulting firm. We help wealth management firms make better technology decisions, and I'm very excited to introduce our guests, speakers for this podcast. I'm just going to quickly run through them, and then we're going to jump right in. We're not going to do any long intros. The first guest is Stuart DePina, president of Envestnet. We have Cheryl Nash, CEO of Tegra 118, John Lenny, CEO of Vestmark, Rainey Bullard, Global Head of Wealth, Charles River Development, and Eric Clark, CEO of Orion Advisor Tech. So the format for today, we're going to be going through a bunch of questions that we've prearranged. We will have some Q&A, so feel free to use the Q&A button in Zoom and post some questions, and we'll try to save some time at the end for your questions. This is being recorded, so if you have to drop off, will be posted later so you can catch up. So the first question, we're going to start with Cheryl. Cheryl, can you talk to us a little bit about some ways your firm is helping clients during this crisis?
Let me unmute first. Thanks, Craig. First, I want to start off by saying I hope everybody joining today is keeping safe and healthy. So this pandemic has obviously impacted all of us in a very profound way. At Tegra 118, we've been steadily using assorted digital channels to communicate with our clients, just like this, what we're doing here with Zoom. We've done virtual roadshows with our clients, so we've introduced them to our new company, which is Tegra 118 from Fiserv Investment Services. Our clients are really looking for peace of mind from their wealth tech solutions provider right now, as everybody on this call knows. So many have shared, and are really working with a system that they feel is reliable and scalable. And we've seen market volatility at record levels throughout this crisis. We are doing a few things in particular. One is to mobilize a task force that is receiving inquiries and requests for assistance, and it's those things that they need quickly, especially in the middle of when the market was really volatile. That was used mostly at that time. We've seen that task force, the questions come really slow down for that. We've created a support group for advisors. So advisors that our clients are looking for ways to navigate our system. More advisors are using it that they have before. So we put a support group in place to help with the high volume of calls across some of our clients. And we provided operations support during the crisis, especially again when there was market volatility, when there are huge trade volumes, to help with some staff resource shortages. Some of our clients had issues with India. When the country shut down, they lost some of the resources, so we stepped in and helped with that. And then, early on, we put in a robust business continuity plan. We're all working from home. We're making it work. We were just talking, the panelists before this, and this might be something that we really start looking at our real estate strategy. But our clients have really relied on us, and we're making sure that, first and foremost, our associates are healthy, our teammates are healthy, and we're, really adhering to the health and precautions that we're getting. But a lot of things that we did proactively in the middle of this crisis, and I'm sure as everybody else can probably attest to.
So John, tell us a bit about what Vestmark has done.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of the same things Cheryl mentioned. I mean, Vestmark's an advisory platform. So first and foremost, the trade volumes are through the roof. I mean, spikes of close to 50x the normal day, daily volumes, which is just incredible. So it means the files are just massive. So everything's late. So with, Vestmark as the advisory platform and our clients as the advisory firm and the custodian, we have to just really manage the communication well, stay up late, making sure everyone's, communicating on where things are. So that's been the biggest thing I could say that to help push the data through all the different pipes. But Vestmark also has an outsourcing group too, and it's part of our business. So some firms use Vestmark to do some of their operations. So, but that group is been a really good asset for us in this time, because we've been able to help some clients that don't use the outsourcing group to help with their operations. So as Cheryl mentioned, when India shut down, that really did hit a couple clients really hard. So they're bringing in their, all personnel, their teenage, kids, and we're helping to train them, but we're also helping them, with the volumes that they've been hearing too. So in terms of, just with the outsourcing group. So.
Thanks, John. So Stuart, what has InvestNet done during this time to help clients?
Yeah, a lot of similar things. We've seen a tremendous spike as a result of a lot of the volatility that's going on by our clients and the service that they need. We have been, I think the main thing is being available and responsive. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a lot of our clients who, similar stories, who honestly weren't ready for, they didn't have their own business continuity plan. These are even enterprises, institutions, or maybe the ones that they had, they just didn't stand up. So we've been able to lean in a lot of cases. Our staff has really kind of stepped up. We've had, particularly in the latter part of March, there was a tremendous amount of extra work that people had to put in. We were able to go virtual relatively quickly, so that was a big thing. We've been able to also leverage some of our capabilities. We've distributed a lot of our tools to our clients to use in support of some of the ways that they manage their clients. So that's another way that we've kind of we've tried to lean in and help some of the firms. We've given away some of those particular tools without cost for a period of time. I know other vendors, other people on this webinar have done the same thing. So I think that for the most part, just being available, being responsive, trying to help them in their time of need, which we recognize is beneficial to all of us.
Thanks, Stuart. I'm going to flip the script a bit here because, John, you covered the next question. So, Eric, what are some of the changes you're seeing in the usage of your platform or at Orion since the crisis hit?
We're seeing obviously a lot of the same volume increases that the others have mentioned, but the one area where we're seeing advisors, really have an uptick with regard to adoption is in our direct indexing tool that allows advisors, instead of purchasing ETFs for their clients, they're purchasing the underlying security constituents. And what that does is it allows advisors to take advantage of market volatility and do some tax loss harvesting for the portfolios. And, we've seen that increase fivefold as we've gone through this crisis, Craig. And it's been a neat thing to see. The custodians dropped the ticket charges to zero, and then really removed that friction point from the industry. And then on top of that, you combine that with technologies like the direct indexing technologies, it really allows advisors to come in and add a lot of tax alpha value to the client portfolios. And, market volatility is, especially on the downside, is never a good thing, but it certainly creates an opportunity here for our advisors to, take advantage of what the custodians are doing and combine that with some technology that's now available to them to implement and execute with their client accounts.
Thank you, Eric. So Randy, how about you? What have you guys seen usage of your platform wise?
In addition to just the spikes of volume that everyone else has talked about, which were extraordinary, and for them to be happening at the exact same time that the entire industry is pivoting to having all of those people that are doing all those trades working remotely, to have that double whammy was interesting, to say the least. A couple of specific things we've seen: a spike in utilization of our mobile apps, not surprisingly. And then, a lot of FAs needing to access our tools from home, whereas historically they'd exclusively, many of them use those tools from their office. So a lot of, network access issues and things. A lot of them weren't necessarily on us. They were our customers that needed to work through some of those transition items, but there was a lot of activities. We kind of worked actively with our partners to make sure that all the technology that they rely on was fully accessible by all of their support staff, their financial advisors, and everybody else in the home office that needs access to that technology from their homes.
Cheryl, I wanted to do a follow-up on something you'd written me offline. You'd mentioned you'd done a tabletop pandemic test, which I thought was really interesting. Can you explain about how that works?
Hello. All right. So we do this on an annual basis, and it encompasses a few different things. We look at business impact analysis across the platform. So as everybody's talking about volumes, we saw tremendous volumes as well, 5 times the normal volumes that we see pre-COVID. But we do a business impact analysis. We do emergency response. So we make sure we've got everybody's phone numbers, all their information that we can text if there's an emergency, make sure there's a call tree in place. We do recovery planning. We actually put together the worst case scenarios that we thought of that could come out of this crisis. Let's say 3 people on the leadership team get sick. Let's say, 5 of your service people who service your largest accounts get sick. So we went through all that planning. We went through, looked at our, the administration of our healthcare plans, made sure that we had changed some things that were necessary to change around if people were out longer than a period of 5 days or 10 days because of COVID. We let them ride that through their healthcare plan. So we did a lot of things like that, and it's just something that we actually leverage Fiserv in many of these. Fiserv still owns 40% of us, and they've got great applications for this. So we looked at what would happen if we lost 50% of our staff because of the illness. So all those types of things that you would do from in a pandemic type way and through a crisis.
I want to go back to Stuart for the next question. So how do you think, with this crisis and the economic crisis and all the other area issues, how is it impacting the managed accounts industry, and how do you think it's going to be changed long term by the crisis?
Yeah, I think what we're going to see, and we're starting to see this, but we started to see this over the course of the last couple of years, but it's just going to be heightened, which is planning. Where does planning come into and how does it impact the managed accounts business? Not clearly, nobody planned for this, or at least nobody saw this one coming. So it's one of the things that will really impact individuals in the planning, and that's going to have an impact on the industry. I think another element, which is somewhat adjacent to planning, which is you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of leverage of predictive analytics and how it's going to impact the managed accounts industry, and really in terms of selection, products, building outcomes. Predictive analytics through artificial intelligence is going to be a meaningful influence, if you will, on the managed accounts industry. I don't remember which one of my colleagues mentioned it earlier, but leveraging digital is going to be something clearly that we're all going to see a greater adoption of, and that's going to influence the market as well. And I think the last part, probably that we're all experiencing at some level is today, is really enterprises are going to need to think, are going to need to continue to think through what does scalable really mean. We've met different levels of scales, and we've really experienced and had to navigate through different levels of scale over the course of the last 8 weeks. And hopefully the worst of it's behind us, but nonetheless, we've hit some new highs. And it's important for us to recognize that while we as service providers have had to think about that, our clients themselves are going to need to rethink that as well. So from a managed accounts perspective, what does scale mean? And how do you manage, if you will, mass relationships? And so that whole relationship between the digital and the human component of how an advisor or the advisory industry supports their own investors, that is certainly, there's certainly a bright light on that. And there's certainly going to be some learnings that the industry takes from this, in my view.
Eric, what are your thoughts on that, the future of the managed accounts industry after post-COVID-19?
Craig, I think the managed accounts industry has to get beyond the managed accounts. Like Stuart had said, it's got to start blending and combining planning with the managed accounts, but it's also incredibly helpful for advisors as we go through crises like this to be able to leverage the communication capabilities, the client and marketing tools that the managed account platforms provide to connect with their clients. And a lot of advisors right now, as we go through this crisis, are dealing with, their kids are at home, they're working from home, their staff is working from home. They are struggling just like the rest of us. And at the same time, they have to try and figure out how to be empathetic with their clients about the struggles that they're experiencing. And advisors are really carrying a double load of burdens right now, not only their own, but also their clients. And so by outsourcing to a managed account platform, it will not only help them alleviate some of the burdens that they're experiencing, but it will also give them additional collateral that they can leverage with their client communications, which is especially critical as we go through times like this.
John, what are your thoughts on where we're going to be after this crisis?
Yeah, I agree with Eric and Stuart. I mean, the advisors need to be advisors, and that's a big job by itself. I mean, outsourcing professional advice is always a good thing. I think the rep-traded programs will always be there, but I think a crisis like this kind of illustrates the need for the outside managers to really do their job and do it well. So it's there's a lot going on. There's an incredible amount of model updates coming from the managers that we're seeing. The load is unbelievable from the managers changing their models every day. But again, they're focused on it. They're doing it as best they can. And then the advisors are actually changing strategies for their clients, which is also kind of an interesting move for them to make. But they're switching from one type of investment vehicle to another, and that's kind of makes the perfect storm for all this trading that we're talking about. But again, I think it's another good indication for managed accounts. I think the separate account is the purest investment vehicle that's out there today. I'm probably preaching to the choir in this group here, but the mutual funds have fees, the ETFs have volatility issues. It really is. You have your own tax lots. It's really a pure investment vehicle, and I think people will begin to see the performance of that through this crisis, and again, it'll just be another tailwind for the industry.
Indeed. So let me go back to Eric. So with the crisis and with the changes we're seeing, what types of programs do you think are likely to see increased growth and market share as people adjust to the post-crisis world?
Well, I think our innovation cycles have been reduced. So, it used to be that when you would roll something out on a mobile application or through the web, that it would take a period of time for those technologies to be adopted. Now, within a matter of 6 weeks, we've all had to become Zoom experts. We've all had to become experts in connecting digitally and using digital tools. And I think that you'll see these innovation cycles for technology companies, greatly reduced. Our time to market is now, and the speed to market is yesterday. And as a result of that, the innovation pace is only going to quicken here as we move forward.
Randy, how are things going at Charles River in terms of your views of products and programs being changed?
I would echo Eric's sentiment in that I don't think the what has changed very much. I think, COVID-19 doesn't substantively impact the focus of most of our customers. It really is an acceleration of the pace. Whatever you are working on, you just need to work on it faster and get it to market quicker. I think what Eric was talking about earlier around direct indexing, there's a lot of things going on in the market that are going to move a lot of advisors and customers in that direction. There's a lot of money in motion, a lot of client self-directed money that is looking for advice, moving into advice solutions. And when your money in motion during COVID-19, you're going to shop digital. You're not going to be driving around FAs. You're not going to be taking in-branch meetings. You're not going to be picking up the phone and making a lot of phone calls. So having a good way to digitally onboard and acquire a new customer is super critical. So digital initiatives, digital-based platforms, and then interactive hybrid, kind of FA digital programs. Look at what UBS did with their Advice Advantage program, or Merrill did with their Edge program. Just those types of solutions. I think a lot of firms, it was already a priority to build and launch all of those types of programs. Now it just became, it went from important to urgent or even critical.
Cheryl, Tegra 118, one of the first leaders in the UMA space, first developers of the UMA technology and platform. Have you seen growth in market share in that? And do you see that as being a benefit, a winner in the post-COVID world?
Yeah, I do think so, Craig, that UMAs will be the winner. We have seen increased growth. We've seen increased market share. We're helping our clients get to the end state, which ultimately is the UMA. And then, we've been talking about UMH for so long, but ultimately the UMA is right now the end state for our clients. There's different types and different factors at UMA that we're working with. But I do think that, when you look at where we are right now and a real superior portfolio that really centralizes and uses best of breed managers and lets the investor have risk exposures within the account, UMA is really the answer for that. We're seeing a lot of growth there. I'm sure the rest of you on this call are as well. We're seeing a growth across all of our product sets, but the biggest growth component, because it's newer and some of the firms are really just starting to roll out UMA, that's really becoming one of the bigger growth areas for us. And it's really because, it allows you to have sophisticated architecture and platform consolidation and all those things that I think are crucial right now from a cost efficiency standpoint.
That's excellent. I want to move on to the next question, which is, we've seen large asset inflows going into robo-advisors, digital advice platforms in the past few months, which is sort of the opposite of what a lot of the pundits said was going to happen in a crisis. So do you see this trend, I'm going to Randy, do you see this trend continuing over the next 6 to 12 months, or is it just a blip?
Very much so. I think firms that have made good investments in building out their digital wealth platforms, robo-advice programs, hybrid, whatever nomenclature you want to use, I think are very well positioned, particularly if they've got a big brand behind them, whether that's an established brand like a Vanguard or a Schwab, or kind of a newer brand like a Wealthfront or a Betterment. All those firms are positioned to do well, and it's going to increase what was already considerable pressure on every firm to really up their game in their digital platform. I don't think it is necessarily, though, going to kind of provide new opportunity for early stage robos, and there are a lot of them out there. There are a lot of firms that have launched digital offerings. It's going to be a tough time for a new infant brand, I think. I think it's going to largely be the firms that have got good digital programs or good brands that they can put behind a new digital program that will end up being winners in this post-COVID environment.
So over to Cheryl on the robo advisors. With all the assets flowing in, do you think they're going to be able to scale? And we've already seen some problems with some of these digital platforms not doing so well under a load, which frankly, the firms on this webinar are here because you have been able to support huge scale with some of the largest firms in the country. What are you seeing with these asset inflows, and do you think it will continue?
I think it'll continue. I think digital just becomes table stakes. So when you think about what Robo's done, at least for our business today, it's enabled us to focus on the experience, the investor experience, the client experience. And I do think that we'll see that continue. Around scalability, so as all of us have said on this call today, that we've seen increased trade volumes and increased data coming through and custody data and all that flowing through our platform. Robo-advisors, in many cases, and we're talking to some today, are looking to partner with firms like ours where we can actually leverage our portfolio accounting or the platform that we've built as the utility. And the Robo platform does what it does really well, which is more that investor portal, that investor experience. But I really see the Robo digital. I don't think they even like to be called Robos anymore. I think they'd rather be called digital advice platforms. But I do see those really continuing to grow. And, I think we've all learned a lot from them. And I think they're what the investors are looking for up to a certain point when they get more complicated and they need real advice.
Yeah, I think the firms just, in general, everybody, every individual really just wants to be more self-service.
Yeah.
I mean, we all do in every aspect of our lives, including making tea times at golf course. But, I think that the more self-service you can do online versus calling somebody and trying to make an appointment, it's definitely a big part of it. And I agree, like being for Vestmark too, it's more like the engine behind the experience. So for us, it's about providing APIs and widgets into that firms can use and leverage to customize and build their own personal experience or their own brand experience. So yeah,
that's exactly right. I can't wait to get a self-service for a haircut appointment.
Half of us need it and half of us don't.
That's true.
So we're about halfway through the webinar. I wanted to remind, we're getting a lot of questions. Thank you for everyone who's posting questions. We're going to try to get to a couple of them. At about 1:45, we'll switch over to Q&A. I want to please keep sending them in, and if we can't answer them all now, we'll post them afterwards to the attendees, to the participants. Sorry. So we're talking about digital advice, and let's stay on the innovation track. Let's talk about how innovation is going to be spurred by this crisis, as most crises often do spur innovation. And we know from the 2008 crisis, a lot of brand name firms started in 2008. How is your company, being some of the largest firms in the industry, how are you guys encouraging innovation inside your platform? Let's go to Stuart.
Well, we have an innovation labs, and you talked about 2008. I'll actually go back to the internet bubble in 92, I guess 2001, 2000. The InvestNet, that's when InvestNet was founded. That's when Tamarack was founded. That's when Yodlee was founded. So these disruptions have these, create, if you will, these opportunities for people to go out and start these businesses. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of that comes out of this particular crisis. So in our organization, we actually have an innovations lab where we try to create, if you will, we try to create an environment where we take some of our best thinking, if you will, individuals who've had some thoughts, and we try to spin them off so that they don't have to be really focused on their day job. So they can go off and be creative. So investments are made in that regard. But as I think the whole market knows, we've also been pretty acquisitive over the course of our tenure, and we've acquired many different businesses where we've identified that there might be different organizations that have taken a different approach to how they want to solve for different problems that are part of the ecosystem that we traffic in, and we've acquired in that way. So we do a little bit of both. We're fortunate to have been in the position to be able to create, if you will, the opportunity for it to happen organically, as well as be acquisitive and try to find some inorganic opportunities. When we have our innovations labs, we try to create, if you will, these environments to where people can go off and spend several weeks to months on working on some ideas. So that's one of the areas that we do. And I think the last thing I'd say is, and I'm sure everyone on the phone, everyone on this call has probably the same thing, as we listen to our clients. I mean, really, really sitting down and listening to our clients. What are their needs? What do they see? And that helps us think about where we want to invest.
Let's go to John. So, how is Vestmark spurring innovation inside your company?
Yeah, no, Vestmark, we've been around for almost 20 years. We've always grown mostly organically through our clients. We haven't taken a lot of outside venture money, and so we really, as an enterprise provider, we really work with these clients. They're really view Vestmark as a strategic decision. So we get involved with their strategy, both what they are building, what they do need, and that's been through the course of our history here. But it starts with start early on with things like fixed income modeling, characteristic based modeling to fulfill that part of the product. Our innovation in the UMA and being able to seamlessly transition between a mutual fund wrap account to an SMA to a UMA all in one account is also another big innovation for us. The block options trading capability we launched last year. Again, just trying to provide these sophisticated instruments, investment vehicles, just enabling them to be more efficient, so that our clients can bring it down market. And we've seen that trend where, I don't know, 15 years ago, a UMA you probably needed $1 million to be in a UMA, and as you bring it down market, it's through efficiencies that we provide, and and other firms on the panel as well. And even that's going down even farther. I mean, getting to a smaller and smaller account with direct indexing or personal indexing, whatever that is, and enabling those types of products. It's just a continuum of enabling what our firms really are trying to deliver, which is again, better advice, better protected advice, better compliant advice, and all the ways that they're trying to differentiate themselves. And we're trying to enable them to achieve all of their goals.
Eric, over at Orion, how are you guys spurring innovation? You guys have done a great job bringing out new products and services at a pretty fast pace. What's your innovation secret?
Yeah, so our application development teams really look at five different areas when it comes to innovation. First, we look outside of financial services. So while we like to think that we're pretty innovative, actually we're probably not as an industry. So we look at what best in class experiences are from a tech perspective outside of financial services, and try and bring those back into our own business and help our advisors apply those. So companies like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, these are truly innovative companies. They do things incredibly well. They execute well. They have user experiences that are natively familiar to our users and our advisors, investors. And so we try to bring those ideas back. So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that we do is we look at feedback from our advisors. So while we might think that we have great ideas here at Orion, our advisors' ideas carry more weight. They're in the trenches. They are using our technology day to day. So we like to look at their feedback. Third, we look at the great competitors that we have, many of which are on this call, this webinar with me today. We really admire a lot of the things that our competitors are doing well. So we try and really make sure that we're up to par in different areas, different things that they're doing well. The fourth thing that we look at is data. We like to drive a lot of the decisions that we make based on data. And then lastly, we look at our own ideas. So, things that we think would help improve our advisors' experience. But those are the five things that our application development teams look at, and in the priority order that we look at them.
Thanks, Eric. Moving on to something we're calling the impacts of the crisis. What's who's going to be the survivors of this crisis? And if you've ever seen Michael Keats's Advisor Tech Map, there's a lot of firms in our industry, a lot of VC-backed firms. And this economic downturn can have an impact. Some have said that up to 20% of the firms on that list could fail or get acquired due to the crisis. So John, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a lot there. Certainly, even there's a lot of cash at the private equity and venture capital firms. There's tons and tons of cash, but they're also trying to assess they want to pick the winners, and they're actually reallocating some of that cash around. So a lot of firms are running with cash needs, right? There's a lot of small firms running with cash needs, and so it's kind of scary for some firms, I imagine, that need the cash, and your venture capital firm or your PE firm is thinking, well, are they going to make it or not? And, maybe I should put my bets over there instead. It's really an interesting time for a lot of these firms. Now, for us, Vestmark is a privately held firm. So, it's a good time for firms to want to buy, firms. It's a bad time, I think, to sell a firm. But and Vestmark has no intention of selling. We've been at it for a very long time. I want to be.
Are you making an announcement now, or?
No, I'm not making an announcement. So I'm just saying we want to stick around for as long as we can privately. But I'm getting all these calls. I'm getting calls from every firm on the planet, more than usual, and because it's a good time to buy. And I think if you've got a good strategy out there, a good acquisition strategy, then and you're partnered with some deep pockets, it's a great time, because I think there's going to be a lot of good deals in the market here in the next 6 to 9 months. And I think the valuations will lag a little bit from the market. I think even though the market's mostly rebounded, I don't know if that's a thing, but I think the valuations are going to still be impacted. People are still going to want to put pressure on the firms that need the capital, and probably pick up some good deals. So I think there's going to be a lot of, even more than usual. There's already a lot of M&A already, but there's going to be more than usual. So,
bargain hunting.
I think so.
What do you think, Stuart? Do you see the crisis impacting a lot of the smaller firms, and how things shake out afterwards?
I do. I think it will. I think, and frankly, in our Yodely business, we support a lot of fintech companies, so we have a bit of visibility into that segment of the market, if you will. So I definitely think that it's going to impact it. I think it's going to be more than 20% that go by the wayside, honestly. But at the end of the day, I think if you've got a good strategy, if you've got resilience, if you've got a few good clients, I can tell you, you're going to see some firms really make a difference. I know that when we were running Tamarack in 2008 hit, I know that was a hard time for us. But the reality is, I think that we found our niche, if you will, and we were committed to what we're doing. So I know that there are other firms like that out there. There's no question about that are early stage VC funded, or even bootstrapping them, who will make it. So, but I do think that there's going to be a fair amount of firms that fall by the wayside. Let's face it. I think that there was when I first came into the Tamarack organization in 2006, Breckenstein put out a survey which indicated that both at the enterprise level and RA firms were spending less than 3% of the budget on technology. That just shows that that's a demonstration of how little was invested in technology back then. Today that number is closer to the high single digits, which is still not a tremendous amount, but it's more representative of what the rest of the world is doing from an enterprise standpoint. And I only make that point to say that this industry has matured when it comes to recognizing the value of technology. Eric was spot on. Financial services is slow to get there, and we're still behind the curve, but we've at least matured enough to recognize the value of what technology will do to transforming businesses, whether it's making them more scalable, making the advisor or the advisor offering more valuable to their investor clients. So, the cat's out of the bag. People need to invest in technology. So if people have the right solution, they'll find their path.
Indeed. All right. So let me go over to Eric. So what are you thinking about this in terms of, you guys work with a lot of partners. Are you seeing maybe they might be going away, and how does that impact the space going forward?
Well, I think, more broadly speaking, Craig, we're at a time where we're physically distant from each other, and advisors are physically distant from their clients, but they have to figure out ways to stay socially connected. So if someone has a technology or an idea that will help advisors socially connect with their clients, I think now could be a great time. Look, we're all starving for human connection. I don't think any of us have ever been so excited to see our neighbors when we walk outside to get the mail. And, that's exactly how clients feel. So we've talked a lot about different digital tools. An example of a company, an advice business that has done a really solid job of combining digital capabilities with digital interaction and social connections would be Personal Capital. And I think a lot of advisors, traditional advisory firms, have to look at those business models and say, how can I tech enable my fiduciary process in a way that I can still stay socially connected? So if there's a new startup out there that can help accomplish those objectives, now's a great time to start. In fact, it's a lot better time for a business to start today than it was even 6-12 months ago. But they're going to have to rise to the occasion and help advisors meet those challenges that we're facing head on.
That's a good one. So I'm going to go to, we've got a whole bunch more questions that we came up with, but we're getting some really good questions on the Q&A. So I'm going to jump over to those. And I think Randy would want to answer this question that someone just posted. And are we conflating digital advice solutions with digital experience? And what's the difference?
Maybe we are conflating them. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, consumers are going to be much more focused on the digital experience around how they engage with their wealth. And, digital advice or robo-advice is synonymous with a pretty basic service, an online risk tolerance questionnaire pointing to a solution and an account opening process, very, defined or constrained, for a retail consumer. But there's a lot more service and a lot more complexity when wealth complexity grows. All of the $1 million, multi-million dollar portfolios and customers that traditional full service financial advisors work with have, much higher degrees of complexity and service that come with that. And so, I think, firms that can lean into that and develop digital engagement, not just around a simplistic onboarding process, but really holistically enabling service. And there were a couple of, questions around, digital service. And there's been an interesting friction over the last decade as robo-advice or digital advice has developed around, financial advisors not having a role in that and therefore being resistant to using it in their practice, and really resistant overall to enabling digital service features that would effectively reduce requests that would historically have come into their practice, for example. And I think we're going to see a lot of that changing, where FAs need to really focus on real value, real advice, performing, kind of very unique functions that only a human financial advisor can do. And everything that can be digitally enabled and digitally delivered will be digitally enabled and digitally delivered. And firms need to kind of embrace that rather than hang on to administrivia as a means to deliver value. That's really not going to work post-COVID, as we've all decided to really consume a whole new range of services digitally that historically we hadn't done.
Everything that can be digitized will be digitized.
Yeah.
John, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, no, it's yes, we are probably complaining a little bit, but yeah, the digital advice is one part of the market where, that's another investment type, and that's a great thing for a certain set of people. But yeah, the digital experience is really a huge part of that, and it's still an issue today with repapering programs. So you have a client at a broker dealer, and the advisor wants to move from this program to another program. It's a big deal. Like, nobody wants to do it. The advisor doesn't want to do it. So you can have like 3 SMAs. You have your clients sign up with 3 SMAs. You want to move them to a UMA. It's like, oh my goodness, I've got to like repaper the client. Or we want to launch a new program, and to shutter an older program, you got to repaper the client. It's still there's still a lot of friction for the advisor, for the investor, sign all this paperwork. It really does. It's going to take time to smooth those wrinkles out. We believe that there's a custody account, and you get that's a single thing. The custody platforms since there's no custody providers on the panel, these things are really, really old and don't move and don't do anything else but transact the account. But you bring it into another system, like Vestmark. I'll just say that because I'm the one talking. But the account can go through this whole transformation from a mutual fund wrap to start with, to an SMA, to a UMA, and still keep the same registration on the custody system. And that without repapering. The repapering part is more of a broker dealer challenge, but they can design a program, a single program to hold all those types of assets. And there's some innovators out there that are working on that kind of concept, and the technology can support it today. So, but yeah, the repapering thing is a huge element of friction in the digital experience. So.
Well, definitely, we've also seen that. Cheryl, do you want to jump in on the digital experience versus digital advice?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, just being when we were part of Fiserv did so much work on digitalization within the banking channel. And we learned a lot from that. When you think about, you can take a picture of your check and it gets deposited into your account. You can open up an account really quickly. I actually, just to try it, I opened up a Bitcoin account and saw how fast and easy that was. Take a picture of your driver's license and it goes all the way through. So I think there's obviously ways in which our industry can do better. And it starts with, as John said, starts with the custody platforms, but then also the providers like us to help innovate and make those processes better. But I do think digitalization is here to stay. We can really put such a rewarding experience in for the advisors and ultimately the investors, so much better than they have today. APIs are much more important. Really making sure data goes back and forth, much more important to enable digitalization. But that is a key area of focus for us. When I think about our business and, being part of now the Motive family, Motive Partners is so focused on innovation and co-creation and aligning with the clients. And, they've brought a lot of that to us, which is great. So I do think you'll see a lot more from us on digitalization, automation, efficiencies, especially today. The cost to do things is so expensive when you think about back office operations. Technology can make that really streamlined and a cost saving where some of those people could be moved into into different roles across organizations. So big focus from ours, and we learned a lot from the Fiserv world.
Okay, we're 3/4 of the way done. I think everyone is doing really well. And we have got a lot of Q&A. Thanks, everyone, all the attendees for posting questions. Keep posting. We won't be able to get to all of them, but we will send them all to the panelists, and we're going to be doing a blog post after this. We'll try to get some of their responses offline, and we'll try to get to as many of these questions as we can. So the next question from the attendees is around self-service. And I wanted to throw this to Stuart. Before the panel, you had sent some data you had captured during the crisis at 70. You had saw a 78% increase in access of your client portal. And someone asked, how important are client investor self-service features in your client portal roadmap? So Stuart, you want to take that? How important is that now? Or is it more important?
They're extremely important, and it really, I would say, you got to appreciate. We don't obviously, as everyone on the phone, we're trying to support businesses that support investors. So the ultimate decision about how engaged the investor wants to allow how engaged they want our advisor clients want their investors to self-support is really driven by them. But the bottom line is we're thinking about and adding a lot of capabilities, both from a client portal perspective, a mobile perspective. We actually we acquired a business at the beginning of 2019, which is a natural language processing chatbot solution, which helps convert, if you will, real speech to text, and leveraging artificial intelligence, helping individuals kind of self-support. So we are investing heavily in that space. We believe that again, this environment, what's happened here in the last 8 weeks, has really kind of emphasized the need. This is obviously, we're all talking about digital, but that's an enhanced version of digital. We're just trying to make sure that we are refining the tools that we have, making them more effective, enabling the consumer to really be able to experience what they are doing in the financial services world, similar to what they're getting outside of this world, as Erica talked about. When you look outside and look at what's happening in entertainment or in retail and other parts of, if you will, the ecosystem that consumers deal with, we should have the same capabilities. So we see a lot of value in that, so we're continuing to invest in that heavily.
Eric, Orion's got one of the most popular portals. How are you seeing that being impacted by the crisis, and is it becoming more important on your roadmap?
Absolutely. And, many of the same ways that Stuart mentioned, you see obviously a lot of increased activity as people are looking at their account balances. But, the portals themselves have to be a combination of providing, transparency to the investor, and blending that with guidance from the advisors. And I think that probably most firms listening to this webinar today have client portals. You have client portals that are providing values, account activity, performance, but you also want to make sure that your portal is reflecting the planning component of your value proposition. Are you allowing people to come in and see the impact of the crisis on their financial goals? The Monte Carlo probability scores, how are those looking as it relates to the current account values that the client has today? And then beyond that, beyond using your portal to connect with your current clients, being able to use those planning workflows to connect with prospects digitally is really important right now, because most of the new business that firms are bringing in today are a result of their old prospecting efforts that were in place 3-6 months ago. I think there's a reality that we're all having to get our heads around, and that is, fundamentally with this crisis, we are in a work from home situation for the next 12 months or maybe 18 months. And the impact that that's going to have on our firm's net flows, new flows, as we sit here today, we need to be thinking about that, because, a lot of the record flows that we've seen year to date are a result of the hard work that we all put in 2019. And we have to go through this very big paradigm shift and ask ourselves, what are we going to do to digitally connect with prospects so that we can continue the momentum that we've experienced year to date? And that is a really tough question that firms have got to be asking themselves right now.
Let's go to the next question here. So that leads in your comment. I want to stay with you, Eric, your comment about planning. We got a bunch of questions about planning, financial planning. And on the one hand, that they feel that the crisis has driven more consumers to realize they need more planning and need better planning, and that they're willing to pay a little bit more to get it, especially if they're getting close to retirement. So how is Orion addressing this need for more planning?
Well, obviously we have great integration partners like Stuart's Money Guide Pro offering and our friends at eMoney. We also, purchased a client experience a platform advisor that allows us to extend planning workflows through our client portal. And that all of those ways are really examples of what Mark Tibergien said our industry was going through. And that's a transition from having an asset management centered value proposition to not only having a planning centered value proposition, but an experience centered value proposition. And right now, more than ever before, that experience has to be digital. And we have to combine the best of human advice with digital interaction and capabilities. So we're all working very hard. All the members of this panel, I know, are working very hard to allow our advisors to express their value propositions digitally. And, the time to do that, of course, is right now. And we're all of us are all hands on deck, ready to help advisors do just that.
That's great. Okay, so we're down to 7 minutes left, and there's a lot more questions coming in. We have a question from someone everyone knows, from Lori Hardwick. Thank you, Lori, for this question. So what do you think that might be the change for enterprise clients in the decision-making process when selecting a new platform or service provider post-COVID? We'll go to Randy for that.
I think it gets back a little bit to your question earlier around Kitch's kind of wealth tech map, and risk sensitivities around risk are going to be through the roof with all enterprise buyers. I think there are a lot of after a long bull market and a lot of stability and a lot of growth for a long time, I think a lot of enterprise buyers have maybe been lulled into not being as concerned about risk, that vendors that had good funding, even if they hadn't quite perhaps found product market fit fully or achieved cash flow positive, as long as the solution was a good fit, there was a high degree of confidence that they'd be around, and maybe that likelihood even increased by the firm making the purchase decision. I think a lot of that is going to change. A lot of firms are going to be quite risk averse. And firms that haven't found good product market fit and kind of a repeatable sales process, or haven't achieved cash flow positive, those firms are really going to struggle. That 20% projection that Doug did on the wipeout there, I think that may be well under. And so I think risk avoidance and risk management is going to be the order of the day for enterprise buyers. Doing more with fewer vendors, going deeper with existing vendors is definitely going to be something that I think enterprise buyers will be looking at.
Cheryl, what do you think, being in the enterprise space and working with some of the biggest firms in the industry, some of the biggest clients, how do you think their decision-making process might change?
And I think what Randy said is accurate. I also think, to add to that, firms are looking for better integration with their different components. So if they have a CRM solution, if they have different solutions that they need to be integrated with the platform itself, they're going to find people who, vendors who actually will do that, who will be better integrated, who will have APIs, who have a robust API library. So that's something obviously that we have today. I also think that firms are looking for end to end. When you think about financial planning, Eric talked about goals planning and Stuart talked about financial planning. Our financial planning tool will be integrated with our core trading modeling platform. I think that full end to end is really where people want to go, versus buying best of breed. I think somebody said this earlier. The best of breed platforms out there, that strategy is no longer in place because of cost efficiencies that are needed, because of savings and all those things that go around with having multiple platforms. So if you could have one platform that supports the entire value chain, planning, proposal, modeling, trading, reporting, all the way through, which I think a lot of folks on this panel have, then I think you'll start seeing more growth. And I do think you're going to see more come from increasing wallet share. Current clients want to do more with you. But I do think it's going to come down to, cost is also something that's there, but cost isn't number one. That's not what we're hearing from the industry. It's more around capabilities, end to end, making sure you have integration points with other firms out there so you can actually give a much better experience to the advisor and to the home office and to those that are using the platform.
All right, the next question up. This is a really good question. I'm going to throw it to Stuart to start. Will your firm be holding a client conference in 2020? I guess they need a live client conference, or even in 2021?
Well, 2020, unfortunately, no. And I went to school in Austin, and that's where we're hosting it this year. So I'm sad to say that we're not going to be able to do that. But we are definitely planning on 2021. Nashville's the location. May's the time frame. And we'll be doing some virtual gatherings, if you will, for 2020 as an alternative. And to the extent that we're able to get back, if you will, and being in front of people, we'll probably do some regional types of gatherings towards the end of the year.
So really quick, Eric, what are you guys doing for conferences this year, next year?
Everything is virtual this year. We're hosting a series of webinars, and then we do have plans to host a conference in Phoenix, Arizona in late August, early September of 2021. We're hoping we can do that, Craig. I think that the reality is
Fingers
that
crossed, right?
Yeah, we're 12 to 18 months away from a vaccine, and so, it's tentative at this point, to be honest with you.
Okay, last question. I think we're going to be running out of time. So over to John. Someone asked, the work from home environment, is this going to be permanent? Are we always going to be working from home? I know you were talking about your developers love this.
Yeah, they
What else
love
you guys
it.
think?
This is there might not be anyone coming back to work in the office anyway. Yeah, it's a really interesting, I think it's different per group too. I mean, we have a lot of software developers, obviously, but and they've already been, our development team. They've already been accustomed to Zoom, using, doing it every day. It's fairly distributed. Sometimes you find the right developer and they're in Missouri. I mean, so that group is already, in that mode already. But yeah, there's no way, we can, force people back in the office. It's going to be a question of really saying, when you're comfortable, come back. And I think someone mentioned earlier, it's probably about a 30% number. And I think that's about the right. I knew it's less than 50%. I could agree to 25 or 30. But I really do believe in the social interaction. I think I think it's very important that there is a workplace that people can come to, conferences like that, so that people can really bond personally. And but yeah, it's going to be very diminished. I think this has definitely changed the workplace for maybe forever.
All right, so thanks, John. You get the last word. It's now 2:00. We're done. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Hope everyone got a lot out of this. And we're going to be recording it. It was recorded. We posted online. And I hope you stay safe and have a great rest of your day.
All right, thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, everyone. It's Craig again. I just wanted to follow up, do a little outro here. After you listened to that webinar, I hope you enjoyed it. Some of the big takeaways for me were hearing about how the managed accounts industry is going to be changed by the crisis, what types of programs and products these leaders see increasing growth and market share, and why. Some of the thoughts on robo-advisors and why we're seeing so much inflow into assets into those platforms. Self-service options, whether they're doing that, digital device solutions, planning, how planning will become more important, and how some of these firms are doing more planning. We know that a lot of these companies have bought planning tools. At least 3 out of the 5 own planning tools, and I think 2 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 5 are also TAMPs. So we didn't really talk about that, but another interesting aspect of how the enterprise wealth tech space is changing. And another good question was whether they're holding client conferences this year or are they waiting until next year? And because that's such a big part of the experience with these firms, I thought that was a great question. Will working from home be permanent? I know a lot of companies are doing that. And how will enterprise clients, broker-dealers, asset managers, banks, change their decision-making process when they select new platforms post-crisis? All great questions. Hope you pulled all that information out from listening to this episode. And before I go, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and share this on your social media outlets. And please comment if you liked it, what you liked, what you didn't like. Post some comments anywhere you do that on social media, and we'll reply back when we can. And hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you all again next time.